you want to see subtitles on the YouTube recording of this class, click the settings icon on the bottom right corner. Then click Subtitles, English Auto-Generated, click Subtitles again, then Auto-Translate, and select your language.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren, and I'm coming to you live from the Essex market. And this is our Fresh Bites at Home class. Today we're going to be making a baby potato salad. I'm going to share some real great tips and tricks for making a potato salad at home, which is really a summer staple. And just want to give a shout out to folks that I recognize. Hi, Marion and Connie and Audrey. Thank you for joining me today. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through our different ingredients, and then we'll do a little bit of chopping and put it all together. I'll talk about my potatoes first. So I call this a baby potato salad because I love buying these tiny little potatoes. And at the market here at our vendor Essex Farm, you can actually buy about a 2-pound bag for $4.99. And they come in these awesome tri-colors. So we have a purple, red, and regular white potato. The red and the purple add a little bit of extra vitamins, but really I just do it because I think the colors are really beautiful to see when we're preparing and eating this meal. But the other nice thing that's nice about the little potatoes is that when you boil them on the stove, it's obviously going to take far less time. But if you want to use large, baking potatoes, Idaho potatoes, russet potatoes, whatever you have at home, that's perfectly fine. What you're trying to do is just cut them into more or less bite-sized chunks. So these are all the potatoes. I boiled them on the stove, and what I like to do is just bring the water up to a boil and then let it simmer. If the water is boiling too roughly, the potatoes get knocked around and sometimes they break. And when they're cooked, we want them still to be nice whole pieces. If you're just joining me, my name is Lauren. We're at the Essex Market, and I'm making a baby potato salad, just walking through all of our ingredients right now. So after our potatoes have been boiled, I put them through a colander and put them in an ice bath, which just means I fill a big bowl of water with some ice and dump the potatoes in there. And that's gonna stop the cooking so that our potatoes don't get mushy, and we want them to get nice and cool, because this is of course a cool salad. So when I have just these little pieces of little baby potatoes here, I only really need to cut them in half, which is nice and easy. So if you want to cut them a little bit smaller, that's fine, but I think half is pretty good right here. So these are all our potatoes already cut and ready to go. I'll put those to the side for now and talk about our other ingredients. So I like to add a little bit of celery to the salad. It provides some really nice crunch and hydration. So I always rip the celery stalks and wash them really well. Because of its shape, dirt really easily gets caught into this space right here. So once I have those washed and ready, I just cut them, the ends off, because those often are not very pleasant to work with. And then I like to take the stalk and run my knife down the center of it. So I'm not cutting all the way through. And if I want it a little bit smaller, I can even do that one more time on each side, which I tend to like to do. So I have my celery stalk cut into 4 pieces here. So I'll just go ahead and do that with my other ones. And you don't have to get rid of these beautiful celery leaves that we have here. Those are a really wonderful flavor. I love adding them to the salad or saving them for a future use. If you didn't want to bother buying or prepping other herbs for this recipe, we're going to use some fresh basil and parsley, but you could also just use the leaves that come right with your celery. That would work really well too. So I'll go ahead and do one more here. Our recipe has exact measurements, but besides the dressing, I really just kind of like to eyeball the other ingredients. Personally, I like a mixture, a pretty even mixture of potatoes, celery, and then we're gonna do scallions. So now when I run my knife through all the stalks, I'm getting all those nice little pieces, and they're all about the same size, and I don't have to go through and do more cuts. It's pretty simple like this. All right, so I'll just leave these to the side so we can use them in the future. Go ahead and add all that nice celery that we just cut up to our bowl. If you want to use other vegetables in this recipe, definitely feel free to experiment. Chopped carrot could be really nice. If you don't have scallion, you could just use regular white or red onion too. So speaking of scallions, let me grab that from my bunch over here. So I'm just using about 3 scallions. I'm going to cut off the ends here. And these ends, you could put them in a little jar of water so that the roots are covered, and they'll actually start sprouting new green tops that you can use in the future. So that's really great, so that you have them moving forward. We are making our baby potato salad today. I'm currently cutting up some scallions. We already boiled our baby potatoes and cut them in half, chopped up some celery. And now I'm just working with the few other fresh ingredients we have before moving on to make the dressing. So I like to use virtually all of the scallion here. I only stop once I get towards the top of my green onion and they start to become a little bit tough. All right, so I think that's good. So we'll go ahead and add these scallions to our bowl. That's going to add just a really nice fresh oniony flavor that's not too strong. All right, so now we're going to do our herbs. So the 2 herbs that I'm going to use today are some fresh parsley and also some fresh basil. Again, I say this all the time, but it's really just so wonderful. These herbs, these 2 very large bunches of herbs, we're not even going to use all of it today that I bought. They're just about $1 each at all of our grocers. So again, the herbs are just a really wonderful way to add freshness, to add flavor to any recipe without adding any extra fat, any extra sodium. So I went ahead and plucked off all the leaves of our parsley and basil that we're going to use today. And I'm just going to go ahead and run my knife through the herbs here. Doesn't have to be anything too fancy. With soft herbs like parsley and basil, I don't mind if I have rather large pieces of it because, you know, they're sort of like a leafy green. It's not like it's rosemary or thyme, which is really quite woody and tough. It's nice to get a big mouthful of basil or parsley when we're eating this salad. Okay, so like I said, just a rough chop. I have some fresh basil and parsley here from our grocers downstairs at the Essex Market. Just $1 per bunch, and I'd say I only used about 1/3 of what came anyway, so just super affordable way to add flavor to our recipe. And also in my bowl for our potato salad today, we have our baby potatoes that we went ahead and boiled, cut in half. And then I have some scallions and chopped celery going in here. Again, you could use any sort of vegetables that you want. Carrots work really nicely, different types of onions, so feel free to experiment a little bit with that. So let me just go ahead and sort of wipe off my knife and board a little bit, and then we're going to move on to our dressing. All right, so our dressing today is going to use a few different ingredients that if you've cooked with me before, you know I like to mimic the taste and texture of mayonnaise, but using yogurt instead. So the majority of potato salads that you would get at a restaurant or buy at the deli, they're going to be mayonnaise based. And they're of course delicious. Mayonnaise is delicious, and mayonnaise is all natural. It's just made with egg yolks and oil, but it's often made with canola oil, which is not necessarily a heart healthy oil. It's high in fat, high in cholesterol. So what we're going to do is create a mayonnaise-like taste, but just use slightly healthier ingredients. So the main one here is our Greek yogurt, And I encourage you to look for Greek yogurt or to strain regular yogurt. What we're looking for is a rather thick texture because mayonnaise, this is what's gonna make it seem like mayonnaise the most. But if you're buying just regular yogurt, just put it over your colander or a clean towel and let some of that excess water strain through, and that will work as well. So we have about a cup of Greek yogurt. This is 2% fat. You know, a little bit of fat is what's gonna help us feel satiated. So that's the one that I like to use, but if you wanna buy non-fat or 0%, that's perfectly fine too. And then a key ingredient to getting sort of that tang that mayonnaise has is gonna be our Dijon mustard. You all know this is probably one of my staple kitchen ingredients here. So I'm just gonna do about a teaspoon. Oops, it's coming out, okay. I'm doing about a teaspoon of our Dijon mustard here. Again, super important that you're using Dijon and not the yellow mustard that we use on our hot dogs and hamburgers. It has a very different flavor. And then I have some apple cider vinegar. We're gonna do 2 tablespoons of this. Apple cider vinegar is nice because it has that acidity, but it's not quite as strong as like a white vinegar, for example. But again, super adaptable. Whatever vinegar you have on hand, or if you have a lemon or lime, that's great too. And then 2 tablespoons of olive oil as well. So we're working on our baby potato salad here at Essex Market. All right. And then I realized I needed to add this to the recipe that we're sharing with you all. But last time I made this, I really wanted like a little extra punch. And so what I'm gonna do is add a garlic clove. So I love the taste of garlic. I need to pound that a little bit harder, excuse me. There we go. So I love the taste of garlic. Some folks might find raw garlic to be a little too much. What you can do is, you know, use less of it, or you let it sit in the dressing, because the vinegar and the salt that we're gonna add help to break down the garlic a little bit so the taste isn't as strong. But I just find that this adds a little something extra. A lot of recipes I've been doing this summer have a clove of raw garlic in the dressing or the sauce, and when you're eating it, you're like, you almost think it's a little bit spicy. It's just adding something extra that I think was lacking the first time around with this. So I'm just cutting it as finely as I can. We don't want to chomp on a big piece of raw garlic.
Lauren, can you just repeat all the ingredients together one more time for everyone?
Yeah, for sure. So we're making a baby potato salad. I'll bring up my bowl over here because we are going to add our dressing in just a second. So we have our baby potatoes, about 2 pounds of those that we boiled and cut in half. We have some chopped celery, chopped scallion, and then we're using 2 fresh herbs today, basil and parsley. And now I'm working on our dressing. We did 1 cup of plain green Greek yogurt, 2% fat, olive oil, apple cider vinegar, Dijon mustard, and now I'm just adding a clove of raw garlic, which is totally optional, but something I really enjoy. I'm gonna grab my salt, because I forgot that. Just right up here. And I'm going to do a generous pinch of salt. And now I'm gonna take a whisk, a fork, a spoon, whatever, and we just wanna mix it all together. So again, what's really nice about that Greek yogurt is it's rather thick. It's gonna give us a similar texture to mayonnaise. The tang from our Dijon mustard, the acidity from the apple cider vinegar, this is all gonna give us a similar taste and flavor to our mayonnaise, but far less cholesterol and fat, which is great. And then in fact, yogurt, and Greek yogurt in particular, is really high in protein. So we're even adding a little bit of protein to our salad as well. All right, so here we have our dressing. So you can see that consistency again, like it's very similar to mayonnaise, which is what we're going for. So I'm gonna just put my whisk to the side, grab another spoon, and we're just gonna put our dressing right over the potatoes here. Some people like to add hard-boiled eggs to their potato salad. That would be another great addition, and in fact would really make this a complete meal. So with the Fresh Bites recipes, we try to make them a complete meal, and if they're not, then at least give suggestions for how you can do that. So a complete meal is something that has at least 3 of the 5 food groups of the My Plate diagram. So remember, those food groups are fruits, vegetables, protein, grains, and dairy. So what do we have going on here? Even though potato is a vegetable, I always put it in the grain category because it has almost as much starch as something like rice or pasta. So we have our grains, we have a little bit of vegetable from that celery, and then we even have a little bit of protein from the yogurt, or again, you can add something like hard-boiled eggs or even canned tuna to this recipe, and then this is really all you need to have a full meal. So I'm just mixing everything around. It's looking really creamy and delicious. And the longer this sits, of course it needs to go in your fridge because it does have dairy, but the longer this sits, the potatoes are gonna soak up that dressing that we made. So this is actually a great thing to make the day before you wanna serve it or you wanna pack it up to take to the park or the beach, because the potatoes are gonna take on that flavor and it's just gonna be even more delicious. So I'm gonna give this a taste here and see if we need any extra salt. Let's see. Love it. The potatoes are really well cooked. Again, I just cover the potatoes in a small pot, bring it up to a boil, and then let it simmer. And once a fork goes through those potatoes easily, that's when we know they're ready. So that's all we need. It's nice and creamy, you get a little bit of crunch from the vegetables that are in there, that freshness from the herbs. It's really quite nice. So I'm gonna just put a little bit in my plate here, and then I wanna tell you how much it cost us to make this recipe. So we'll just spoon a little bit onto our plate. Our recipe says this can serve 4, but I think you could get at least 6 portions out of this. It's quite a lot. All right, put that to the side. Beautiful, right? Doesn't that look nice? So we're getting all the benefits and flavors of a traditional potato salad, but far less fat, far less cholesterol, just a really healthy and fresh option. So to make this recipe, I got all of our ingredients here at Essex Market. And what I want to do moving forward is I'm putting all the ingredients that I bought from our grocers downstairs and how much each ingredient cost me. Of course, with something like our celery, I only used about 1/4 or 1/3 of the package. So I'm just accounting for what I used here. So all in all, our recipe cost us about $11 to make. If you assume there are 4 portions, that's just $2.77 per portion to make this meal. Like I said before, I think there's quite a lot there. If you stretch it to 6, it's gonna be even less than that. But a pretty good price for everything we have here. Add an affordable protein, your eggs, your tuna, whatever you like, and you have a complete meal for not too much money. So if there aren't any questions, I wanna say thanks to everyone for joining us again today. You can find all the recipes, including our baby potato salad, at essexmarket.nyc/freshbites. If you're making the recipes at home, I'd really love to see it. Feel free to email me or with any questions. I'm Lauren at essexmarket.nyc, and I hope to see you next week for our Fresh Bites at Home every Wednesday at 11. Thanks for coming, guys.